not give your full along with a command chief stunt double, Chief Master Sergeant Brian Rochello. I can't say his name, or it took me 10 years to figure it out, so everybody just calls him Chief Roach.
Yes, sir.
He's much bigger than the animal that shares the name, but a lot more friendly. So, Chief, thanks for joining us today.
Honored to be here, sir.
Yes, I'm glad to have you. If you want to know where all my skeletons are buried, Chief knows, but he can't tell you or he'd have to kill you.
Absolutely.
So we go back a little ways. Chief, I know, so I'm catching you publicly now, and you guys are going to see the blush through the mask here in a second. But I actually had nothing to do with his assignment here, literally. And when I saw that the maintenance group commander had hired you in this, I literally danced a jiggy. And I will not demonstrate that on camera right now, but I was thrilled to see that you were inbound here, and not at all surprised that you competed well to be a group chief. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, sir.
And he tells me that he has never done this before.
No, it's my initial time.
So for those of you out in broadcast land, you can send a couple warm fuzzies in to the 707-412-8922 number. That's how you get information to us. We'll take your comments, your questions, your gripes, your complaints, your critiques, and your suggestions. And if you want to send in an XOXO to Chief Roach, you'll watch him smile and see that as we move along. So again, Chief, thanks for being here. Thanks for the stunt double.
Thank you, sir.
We got a couple things in the lineup today. The first thing we're going to do, as always, are our Warriors of the Week. We've got a couple other things after that I want to announce. We are primed to give you the updates, and they're literally happening while we're broadcasting, and they've been happening over the last couple days. Updates at the national level, which are trickling down at a pretty good pace to us about COVID and counter-COVID things. More of a, if you will, a normalization, which I've been hoping for, anticipating, looking forward to, of the pandemic. And I can talk to about what we know and what is likely based on the information I've collected in my brain over the last 3 to 4 days. And then, as always, we'll take your comments, questions, and critiques there at the end, wrapping up at about the 1 hour mark. So with that, if we could pan over to our bright, shiny, smiley faces that are our Warriors of the Week. Perfect. There they are. So I'm going to let them tell us a little bit about themselves first, and we'll go. How about we go in rank order there? So we'll go down, and then and we'll give Brown a chance to get the proper rank when he introduces himself. If he doesn't, I'll spot correct him. So go ahead, gents. Thanks for joining us.
My name is Senior Airman Anthony Brown, Jackson, Mississippi. Work at the 412 Test Wing. Really.
Married, kids?
No kids, not married.
Yeah.
How long you been at Edwards?
Yeah. So he's been here a while, a little while, right? A couple things about Brown here, and I set him up, and he just found out he's on the staff sergeant list. So it's not public release yet, but there it is. So the next time you hear him introduce himself, he introduces himself as Staff Sergeant Select or Staff Sergeant Anthony Brown. So go back over. Let's look at the much better looking gents. All right, there you go. I'm thrilled to have the dude in the front office. I begrudgingly accept the decorations on his desk. You want to tell us what the decorations are on your desk there, Brown?
Alabama.
Yeah.
Roll Tide roll.
Yeah, and it's not like one Alabama thing. It's how many you got there?
I got 2, 3.
Yeah, just a couple, right? As many of you know, Tech Sergeant Cunningham, who's the NCOAC of the superintendent of the wing CAG, is also, I thought, the world's biggest Alabama fan. But now there's a competition happening out there, so I think that's pretty awesome. And I'm excited about August because August means September's really close, and that means college football season is about to start. And as long as we avoid the Big Ten USC questions in this broadcast, I think I'll be okay. So Airman Brown, you just finished I'll say your first PME session. So why don't you tell us about your ALS and what you thought of it, and Chief and I'll have a couple of extra questions for you.
Okay, so ALS for me, it's probably one of the best experiences I went through in the Air Force so far in my 5 years. I feel like the instructors and the commandant, they really wanted us to express everything and make sure we absorb all the knowledge that they got from their past experiences and everything. And I can say all of my classmates, genuinely, all of us, we were band together from like day one, came together, we made great strides towards the beginning. Well, at the beginning, you know, it's always a couple of shy people, but towards the end, everybody was confident and ready to go back to the workplaces and succeed.
The thing that I find fascinating about our test ALS, right, is that we get to break some new barriers there. And I'll ask you the question: did you know there were going to be civilians in your class? And then, whether you did or did not, what did they bring that you don't think you would have gotten in the class if they hadn't been there?
I was not expecting civilians.
And if I recall, you had 2 or 3?
2.
Yeah. So what do you think they brought to the class that you wouldn't have had if they hadn't been there?
They bring a little bit more outside world experience to ALS because most of us, we joined right out of high school, or we didn't work that many jobs before. But the 2 ladies that came to our class, they were really experienced in life, and they gave all of us a little inside knowledge. So
that's pretty cool. Hey, Chief, how many ALSs you know have civilians at ALS?
I don't, sir. I don't.
He's holding up one finger, folks. One,
Yes.
right? One. What do you have for Staff Sergeant Select Brown?
So you had a few weeks to self-reflect your good attributes and some weaknesses. What are you going to take away after this time and try and pay it forward? You know, you're getting ready to put on a new stripe. What's going to be your first action move to pay it forward?
Sir, that's
No
that's
pressure.
an easy question, actually.
Awesome.
Because as long as I remain myself and I, keep the Air Force core values and my personal core values aligned, it'll be easy transitioning up the ranks. Just remain yourself. Make sure your people okay and everything always works out.
Good stuff. So, Airman Brown, what do you do for a hobby? And I know the answer you're going to give everybody here, but before he answers, I want everybody to think about, okay, what could his hobbies be? What could he possibly have for hobbies? So we'll give everybody a little bit of time to think about that. Write it down for yourself in your brain. All right, Airman Brown, tell everybody. And I fell over when he told me this, but what do you do for a hobby, for an off-duty activity?
Semi-pro football.
I was like, holy cow.
Semi-pro football.
Yeah,
I played
yeah.
a little
He's
bit
got
at
speed.
Maxwell.
Yeah, and what position?
Receiver.
And how many different teams have you played for?
3, 4.
That's
Ever
pretty-
since I got out of high school, it was like a little side gig. Wasn't getting paid for it. It was just something to do.
That's cool. That's really cool. I quit I quit. I love football, right? I love football. I grew up in the Steelers Iron Curtain days, and my best friend down the street wanted to be Lynn Swann, and I wanted to be Terry Bradshaw. Turned out I got the haircut, but not the arm. So anyway, and the thing that took me away from football was on a practice scrimmage, a dude the size of Roach and I collided at full speed, and guess who won? Yeah, it wasn't me. So that was when I decided that playing football probably wasn't in my future.
Sir, I've tried to play volleyball against ALS over the last year, and I can't walk away without getting injured.
Well, I'm surprised. I'm glad to see you're not on crutches. So at least they got that going for you. Well, cool. Emmer Brown, I'm glad you're on the other side of ALS. The pay it forward thing is really important. You have just experienced the first example, but there are many more in your future. We believe as an Air Force, we believe that leadership is a skill set you can learn. Everybody has things that are natural for them or innate to them, but there's a whole bunch more you can add to the toolbox along the way. And I know you saw that, I know you got that, and you were able to practice that a little bit now. And you did so well that you walked away with one of the DG awards. So publicly here, congratulations, and well done. Now, in a couple years, then Tech Sergeant Brown, so one more promotion away, will have a chance to attend NCOA. So pivoting now to someone that has also just recently completed NCOA, or PME in the form of NCOA, let's pivot over to Tech Sergeant Galvin. So why don't you give us a little quick history on how you fit in this big puzzle?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Tech Sergeant Galvan, first name Alex. I'm a resident of Los Angeles, California. I'm 42 years old, married with 3 kids. Started my active duty career in 2004 till about mid-2007, and this was in Columbus, Mississippi. I'm sure you've heard of it. Columbus Air Force Base, Mississippi. Finished my time there, came over to the reserve site at March Air Force Base, where I stayed there till about 2008, until I got hired by the California Highway Patrol. Been an officer there ever since. Gone to the IMA program around 2016. I've been here at Edwards since about 2016. Only about 30 days a year, which is actually 24 days. I come twice a year. It's a great gig. It's a great opportunity for me to remain in the Air Force and stay active and, contribute what I can contribute to the unit here, to the Security Forces unit here at Edwards. And I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, so one of the things that I really appreciate and I enjoy, and so I just met Alex today for the first time in person, but you notice the uniform name tape on his uniform is no different than it is on mine. It's no different than it is on Chiefs or on Staff Sergeant Select Browns. It says U.S. Air Force. And the Individual Mobilization Augmentees, so that's what IMA stands for, are a great asset. They're owned by Air Force Reserve Command, but they are actually attached to active duty units. And so Alex is connected or attached to the Security Forces Squadron here. He's local. It allows him to stay blue, continue serving in that uniform while also having a civilian job. So it's the quintessential citizen soldier in person. And the fact that you get to do off-duty, kind of what you're doing in a uniform, is also a big benefit to us as the military, because your specialty off informs what we learn and how we interface and interact with our community partners. And I suspect it allows you to talk to your fellow officers at CHP and other state law enforcement organizations on, hey, those defenders, they're credible. They may not have the specific expertise that you do, but they're legitimate law enforcement officers, and they're full up. So you got a story there about somebody at CHP that you converted or went, holy cow, the Air Force does what?
Right, yes, sir. Many people, that happens a lot. What are you guys doing there? For the question I always get is, what plane do you fly? And you kind of have to roll my eyes. Well, I don't fly a plane. I'm in the Security Forces units, just like military police. That's really all it is. A lot of people are shocked to know the details of what we do in terms of deploying, the air-based defense things we do and everything we do out and abroad. So that's pretty much it.
It's impressive. And so there are lots of examples, folks. If you're listening or you know somebody that was on active duty at one point in the Air Force and they are wanting to be little blue again, there are a lot of IMA opportunities that lean on your civilian expertise and your military prior experience. That blended super nice. Defenders are one of those. I got a lot of law enforcement. Sorry, I got a few legal office, not just lawyers, but also the paralegals that do that. Whole bunch of maintainers.
Absolutely.
And Chief can talk to how much those folks blend in for us. But there's a lot of opportunity for you to stay blue. And as an IMA, especially if you're local to the place where you get to serve, it's a pretty solid setup, both for the unit that you're attached to and for you in your personal life. So it's really good stuff. So, why don't you talk about your NCOA experience? Where'd you go? How long was it? What was it like as a reservist? And what did you get out of the big course?
Yes, sir. I attended NCOA in April down in Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado. It was just like Staff Sergeant Select Brown mentioned. It was a great experience for me. Same thing. It was a really great experience. A lot of good camaraderie. We blended really well with our flight. It was about 80 students in the class, broken up into several flights. And it was just a great experience. We had mandatory PT. We were all not forced, but able to participate in sporting events together. We went out as a group, studied as a group. It's quite a lot of work, having to write 4 papers and have 3 presentations, but the totality of the experience was very helpful. There was several good speakers that spoke. One that I recall was a psych doctor from the academy. The Air Force Academy is out there, and she teaches full-time there. And they taught us about, I'm sure you heard the phrase, emotional intelligence. That's something that really stood out with me. And these speakers did a great job of, explaining what all this is and how we can incorporate it into our leadership skills and what we do on a day-to-day basis. And although I was a reservist, within the class, it was great to learn the experiences and stories and hear the stories of all the other active duty members in the class.
Good stuff. Any Space Force folks, or had they already broken off? All
Yes,
Air
sir.
Force?
I would say 80% of the class was Space Force. Most
Okay.
of the instructors were Space Force. A lot of them had just recently transitioned into the Space Force, and they had a lot to say about that, which was really nice. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah, no joke, no kidding. Chief, what do you have?
So no, you have a lot of life experiences in your 40s, right? And you kind of have two paths to pay it forward. You're going to do it in highway patrol and back as an IMA. What did you learn that you didn't know before?
Yes, sir. The fact that I do this on 2 different fronts is really amazing, because I get to come here and share the knowledge of the outside civilian world with the folks here in the Security Forces unit, because we have roads. For example, we have roads outside the base here that has a lot of heavy civilian traffic, and the jurisdiction is a bit confusing. So a lot of times our guys here on base pull over the civilians on the off-base roads, and they don't exactly know how to handle the situation. So I can kind of share the knowledge and share some of the jurisdiction values and how things work on the outside, share it with these guys here so they know how to better themselves, how to handle a situation that they might not know how to handle themselves on the military side. I love coming here and being involved with the training unit, because I fall under the S3 unit in our Security Forces Squadron. I like coming here and sharing the knowledge and getting involved with them directly when it comes to training.
It's awesome. It's an awesome opportunity for you and them.
I'll tell you, folks, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, and Tech Sergeant Galvin is perfectly aligned to give us an expert's opinion on that, but a lot of people don't recognize that you are not on a military installation when you go through the gate. You are typically on the military installation long before you go to the gate, and it is absolutely true at Edwards that once you pass that wall, you are now on the installation, and it's miles to the gate depending on which gate you're going through, north, south, or west gate. But different jurisdictional rules may apply. And there's no demarcation line on where those are. The defenders on the other side of that coin, learning where the jurisdictional rules apply, what they have and what they don't have, who would prosecute, what tickets do you issue. So, for example, potential different traffic violation. The same traffic violation would potentially have different rules enforcement or a ticket issuance if you do that on exclusive federal versus on proprietary outside the gate. And then also depending on what county you're in. So you got a defender that could actually, I think this is right, somebody will correct me 100% on this, maybe Sergeant Galvin will, on Mercury Boulevard. So if you drive out the south gate and you take the first immediate left, you end up on Avenue B, which eventually turns into Mercury Boulevard. At some point, as you follow Mercury Boulevard to the north, you move from LA County into San Bernardino County. And
Yes, sir, that's correct.
yeah, and there's differences on what we get out of the sheriff's office backstop in one county versus the other. And that's the kind of expertise that something like Sergeant Galvin brings to us. And a lot of people don't realize that our defenders have to train to that. So they have to train to 4 jurisdictional requirements: federal, San Bernardino, LA, and Kern. And that's interesting. And I'll leave it at that. Sergeant Galvin, anything else you want to throw out at us?
Yes, sir. Just I wanted to thank everyone that I work with and works around me. We have a liaison for the wing, Miss Sandra Deering. I'm sure you know who she is.
She's awesome, by the way.
I could not do this without
Shout
her.
out to Sandra.
Shout out to her, and I could not do this without her. And the training unit that I fall under here at the unit, the supervisors, Tech Sergeant Griffin, Master Sergeant Reader. These guys run the training unit, security forces. They do a great job, and they help me out a lot. And I try to return the favor.
That's awesome. Thanks for staying blue, and we appreciate what you bring from the outside and what you take back to the outside as you communicate what the Air Force does. I know some of you folks have heard me say this before, but it's worth repeating, that when you look at and you take the numbers from the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Defense, and the U.S. Census Bureau, and I mean, this isn't going to surprise you at all, Roach. I do a little math when I see numbers. I know, that's crazy. What? You do math, boss? You do those numbers and you roll them up, and you see that it's actually below 7% of Americans have ever worn a military uniform. And that's all branches, all components. And so all of our uniform services plus active duty guard and reserve, less than 7%. That number happens to be declining because the generations that served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam are aging out. So I think it's going to stabilize between 5.5%, maybe a little bit more, depending on the size of the uniform force over time. But so 5-ish, call it 5% of Americans have ever worn a uniform. And then you flip that over and you say, okay, how many are wearing a uniform today? And of any component, active duty, guard, and reserve, and then all services. And it's like 0.7%. Today. And so it's really important that we all communicate with the community. Many of us are from families where there's multiple military members in, or we grew up in a military town, we grew up near a base, and by definition, we've all been on a military installation, so we have some affiliation. But you don't have to go far, especially in big counties like LA and even Kern, before you get into pockets and neighborhoods and even entire cities where they'd be hard-pressed to find someone that has ever served. And so our communication on what we do for the nation and what the value of you potentially joining the nation as a reservist, as a guardsman, or on active duty may not be well known. And I'm not asking everybody to be recruiters, but I do think there's a lot of communication to happen, kind of like what you heard Sergeant Galvin talk about with his fellow CHP officers. So I'll pivot back to one last thing, and then we'll clear these two off, and we'll wish them a great weekend. Sergeant Galvin, congratulations on completing NCOA. Sorry you had to take the hardship tour in April in Colorado. I mean, that must have just been horrible. But thanks for doing that, and thanks for being a TFI member there too. That was super valuable to your classmates, I'm sure. And I'm sure they learned more from you than you did from them. So thanks.
Sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I pivoted to the we all ought to go talk around the Thanksgiving dinner table or to our neighbors or in our hometowns. Hey, Airman Brown, what are you hoping to hear soon about next assignment potential?
Hopefully to work an ROTC job or just PCS somewhere overseas, to be honest.
Yeah, ROTC, recruiting, or an overseas assignment. So it isn't just the people that go to special duties that are recruiters. It's all of us, and especially those of us that have worn the uniform proudly. All right, gents, thanks. I appreciate what you do, and I'm glad to be on the team with you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so while we're transitioning, there's a couple things that I want to hit on here. The first one is there was a question up there, when is Outdoor Rec going to fix the fam camp slots that are broken? I'm going to tell you point blank, teammates, I don't know how many are broken. I don't know which ones are broken, and therefore I don't have the answer for you, but I'll lean out to either the FSS team that is probably watching or to the CE team that's watching, and they might have an answer that they can get back in real time. I suspect that the camp host and the FSS Flight Outdoor Rec is aware of that, and if they are, they should have a good answer. And if they're not, then at that point they'll march it up the chain of command. And if not, let us know. But if CE and or FSS can phone a friend in, that'd be great. So that's the first one. And then somebody was brave enough to type in this question, but I know Chief Roach is dying to ask it too, so I'll let you ask that there.
What does the ribbon represent on your uniform?
So it represents that I was trying to get a chief to call me out of uniform on it, but I'm sure he wanted to, but he didn't. So as you know, people wear different things that are very symbolic and very proud on them at certain times. This is a Friday. We show pride in our units by wearing, squadron colors or maybe a morale patch or things like that. And so I have decided to wear a ribbon that has some significance to me and to my family on my lapel on Town Hall Fridays. Happens to be a blue ribbon. You can look it up. It's a medical condition that rhymes with cancer, and it has impacted my family significantly. And one of the reasons that I want to wear it, and why I'm glad that person asked me the question, is that I think if you see a pink ribbon on somebody, everybody immediately says that's breast cancer. And breast cancer awareness has made tremendous progress in our nation, in our society. My dad's mom in the 1960s had breast cancer. And it was a closely guarded family secret on what that was for decades. Mm-hmm. And now it's, we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it's pretty common. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the numbers are 1 in 7 women will have breast cancer over the course of their lifetime. Early detection for all cancers is key. And that is one that we have an opportunity to detect very early. And that's a great thing. My disappointment is that the male equivalents of breast cancer, or so things that are specifically male, are not as talked about, and I think that's a tragedy, right?
Absolutely.
And so, in a smaller form, happy to talk to you a little bit more about it. But it's a way to enter that conversation at an interpersonal level. I will tell you, folks, that the 2 primary male cancers are relatively easy to screen for. One of those cancers is actually extremely life-threatening, probably right up there with melanoma. And you got to take action fast, or it's going to get you. The other one is potentially a little bit more slow-growing, but like all cancers, it's worth taking it serious, as my family has done, and we can go more there. So whoever asked that question, I appreciate it, and I promise, Chief, I won't wear it after the broadcast, although you'll have to help me remember because I don't stare at my lapel. But thanks for asking. Okay. We've now swapped out the guest booth here. We got 2 more folks in here, so we'll show those bright, shiny faces. What you see there on the screen when they flip it over is Captain Kyle Madison. He goes by DJ. He's our new chief of the Commander's Action Group, and he's a flight test engineer by job that I stole him from. Been in the Air Force just a little while. I suspect he'll be a major in the not-too-distant future, and he's here to answer. Show me the stack, Kyle. I mean, he was walking over like, hey, sir, here's all the new COVID guidance. You got the stack of papers or the summary? Yeah, he's got it summarized. But it's a lot, and I have not had time to read it or consume it, but DJ has on all our behalfs. So if you have any questions on the updating guidance that I get wrong, he's going to correct me. And if we have something that I don't know the answer to, he's probably read it and can answer it real quick. And then he and I will chat about that. So Kyle, real fast, second base, am I remembering that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what was the first one, and how long you been at Eddie?
First base was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Transitioned here after about 5 years in the service. Been here for a little over 2.5 years, sir.
Yeah, and we stole him. I stole him from a CTF. Which one was that?
F-22, sir.
His.
11.
They're telling. Microphone. Hold
Test,
the mic
test.
up. There we go.
Sir, my first assignment was at Wright-Patterson. Spent about 5.5 years there. Been here for a little over 2.5 years. And you stole me from the F-22 Raptor CTF.
Yeah, so we're probably gonna grow that CTF in name and maybe not mission set to an air dominant CTF here in the not too distant future. They're doing some amazing things there right now. And 25th anniversary of the first flight of the Raptor is this weekend or next?
I think this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, so bachelor's embarrassed for both of us. It is pending very shortly. The really amazing thing is that after that airplane has been flying for 25 years, we continue to invest, we continue to modernize, and it's an extremely credible capability. We're putting new weapons in it, and we're putting new capability on it, and it's going to be a legitimate force for the next few decades. It is especially powerful when it intermingles and commingles with a larger force, a joint force, in a literally a diversity of capability. But the Raptors provide one unique thing that very few platforms can even come close to touching. So it's cool. All right, Kyle, thanks for being here. And to Kyle's right is Mr. Brown of Brown & Brown. What can Brown do for you, right? I'll let you talk about who that is, who that wingman is, and what your job there is, William.
Yes, sir. My name's William Brown. I serve as the Community Support Coordinator for Edwards Air Force Base, and we provide support 24/7 to our military and civilian population. I've been at Edwards since 2017. And today we're here to talk a little bit about what used to be known as the Suicide Prevention Crisis Line, now the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
Yeah, and so if you could go to that chart real fast, it was possible to get to the Suicide Crisis Line on a couple apps. You could Google it, or maybe you had something there. It was also, we always would tell you, if you know someone that's in crisis, at risk of suicide, call 911. We've rolled out nationally, and back me up, William, I think it was about 45 days ago, we rolled out the three-digit number from the entirety of the United States, 988. And so that is a big deal, that we have a separate way to immediately get to the type of help that you or the person you're caring for needs. And so, William, if you want to talk a little bit about what's behind the 988 number?
Yes, sir. In mid-July, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Organization of our government, CMSgt.gov, transitioned from a long 7-8-digit number to 988 for suicide and crisis lifeline. So since 2005, SAMHSA has supported over 200 crisis centers across the nation that provide 24/7 support for anyone who would call or text in with questions about suicide prevention, substance abuse issues. And really we want to make people aware that our government is trying to make it a little easier to coincide with, as you think of an emergency, you call 911 when you're dealing with suicidal ideation, anyone you love or know you come across that may be dealing with suicidal issues or crises. You could simply call 988 or text 988 to get information and immediate support. So that's a new endeavor mid-July, and we encourage people, if you experience, if you live long enough, you'll experience crisis in your life, or people that you love, or people that you are in your world will experience crisis and need some support. So we encourage you to share 988 for anyone who's in crisis or dealing with suicidal thoughts or ideations. And it does take a community to support people in crisis, and that's what we would like to do, is share the 988 number with people in our community.
Yeah, so a couple things I want to highlight here. Can you guys go back to the infographic, please? Thanks. So it's been active for about a month, right at a month. 988. It is not a replacement for the 1-800-273-8255 number, which if you're an old texter, it would be 800-273-TALK, right, in the PIN. But that's not going away. It's just an easier number, frankly. I can remember a 3-digit number. I can't remember a full phone number anymore, Chief. I don't know about you.
No. It used to be a thing, though, when we had real telephones.
It is, yeah. Now everybody doesn't have a number; they have a name, and sometimes I can just say it, and my phone calls it for me. But 988 is an augmentation to that, and it is specifically designated for, as Mr. Brown said, if you are having a crisis, and if you're not sure what it is, and call them, right? It'll route to somebody local. If you volunteer or tell them you are military or military affiliated, there are military specific crisis line numbers that they can redirect you to. And if that person that answers the phone on the other side says, boy, I think this is a little bit more than just crisis counseling. They actually need emergent care. They can reroute to local 911 after the person you talk to figures out where you are. So it's a fantastic way if you're having, so we talk about suicide and suicide crisis prevention hotline, but it's also a mental health or substance abuse crisis. There's some interesting things that this does for us societally, and one is it gives a dedicated resource for folks that are actually in crisis, but they don't need police. And it frees up the 911 bandwidth and the emergency responders, police, fire, rescue, to do things that only they can do, and directs this to a much more appropriate and frankly quicker source of help. Obviously, they still can talk and still can coordinate to each other, but I think it's an important step as the nation moves forward on that. And I think there's some more growth to be had there as we build that out as a country. If you happen to be watching from Europe or Korea, the numbers there are still local, and the numbers there are still in place, and they haven't changed. And I guess it's been around long enough that we had one in Afghanistan. I'm not thinking any U.S. service members there are going to be calling that number soon. But my point in bringing that up is that depending on where we have large density of folks, we can also set up something that would be a local number for you there as well. So very serious program for a very serious purpose that has a new, I'll say, front door or an alternate front door to it. William, anything else you want to push out there or that you want to correct me on? And by the way, we'll post that infographic on the website that PL hang here very shortly, so it can hang for a little while.
Yes, sir. If you want more detailed information, you can type into your search engine 988lifeline.org, and takes you directly to the website with all the necessary information. Also, if you're local and you need support, maybe in another area, you can type in Edwards Air Force Base Helping Agencies, and you'll find a link via your search engine or through our app. Just type in Helping Agencies, and all of our community resources will be there available to you. And remember that you are never alone. 24/7, there is always somebody available at the other end of a phone call, a text message, and we all need each other, and we all need to help care for each other. So remember 988, and we're here to support you however you need us to.
Hey, sir, I honestly think this is huge. As I creep up on 24 years, resiliency is a thing, right? Coping mechanisms and having a person to talk to. Throughout my career, there's been a lot of life stressors, whether it's work or family or outside stressors. And it's always nice to reach out and have someone to talk to. And I do it probably every week. And it's nice to know that this is a capability we have that is 3 digits. And please, if you need someone to talk to, reach out to the chaplain, the helping agencies. But life is tough. There is struggles, and you need people to get you through it, I promise. And the one thing we can't replace is a human being. Aircraft are very easy to replace, vehicles, but we can't replace our human.
Absolutely. The people are the most valuable resource, and not just because you're the resource, but because you're a person, member of the team, and it's huge. I'll tell you, there's an acronym I learned. It's also 3 characters. Happens to be ACE that's applicable here. Ask, care, and escort, right? This 988 number gives the person in that E phase a lot simpler place to go to help somebody. And I think that's also a super benefit as well. Maybe the person is your close friend and they're like, don't call 911, don't call 911, please don't call 911. Well, then call 988, and then you can hand them the phone or use their phone and wait until they're connected. That is a care and escort factor there, and then you can work with that counselor, and the person that you are the great wingman for may have just saved their life. In this scenario, it's a good resource for you there. William mentioned that you can get to this on the app. You can get to this on by searching on Google. You can get to it in many, many, many different ways. So I'm super excited about that. I'm glad it's here. Like I said, we'll hang it. And just to show you that how integrated and how close knit of a family this is. Hey, William, when you wear something that looks a little bit more like this, what do you do in that role?
Yes, sir. Since 2006, I've been chaplain in the Air Force, and currently spent probably been in almost 17 years, half of that active duty, half as a reservist or an IMA, which I think you mentioned earlier, and been serving out in Colorado, supporting our Air Force Academy. Recently going to be transferred to AFCENT to support their mission there. But as a chaplain, so my life is caring for helping support, caring for others and caring for myself and my family, and just serving our nation as best we can, and helping people either access or get information to access the resources that they need.
Yeah, we can't set this up, folks. Chaplain Brown, Major Chaplain Brown, serves at the Air Force Academy in Colorado. We just had the reservist on that's a cop that went to Ncoa in Colorado. And you know, it's interesting how many degrees of separation we don't have from everybody else that serves with us. The other thing I introduced you there, William, as Brown and Brown. You want to talk about the other half of the power couple there?
Fortunately, been married 20 years to Krista.
Well, I was talking about that one, but the other one you get to work with. Krista's awesome too, but
Yes.
Let's talk about the one you share the office with.
Oh,
Or will soon share the office with is probably a better
thank
phrase.
you. Senior Master Sergeant retired Vanessa Brown. Has no official relation. I'm married to Krista for 20 years. But Senior Master Sergeant Vanessa Brown will be serving as Violence Prevention Integrator. I believe she comes from Security Forces, First Sergeant, and we've worked together for a number of years in and out of the uniform, and look forward to supporting our community action team, which is our helping agencies, as we continue to provide excellent care to our community here in the Antelope Valley area.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about grabbing Shirt Brown in a civilian capacity as the VPI. You know, those jobs are one deep, and they need each other. And there's a few other folks around the helping agencies that she's gonna join on. And we were super fortunate to get her commitment to join us in that capability. And I'm excited. And I know William is too, to get her on the team in that capacity. Another thing that they will have, it's not ready for prime time yet, but we're remodeling the Community Support Services Center location. So it'll be a no wrong door facility that's kind of behind the base theater right now. It's been under construction for a while. It's across the street from Chapel One and behind the base theater. My intent over the long haul is to get as many of the helping agencies as we can fully in there, or at least have a place in there. So if you walk in there and you're not sure exactly where to go, at least you're in the right building, and anyone there will be able to reach out to you, literally put arms on if required or hands on if required, and get you to the right place. So we'll have the SARC will eventually move there. We'll have mental health in there, at least part-time. Family advocacy will have some occupancy there. Violence Prevention Integrator, CSC, and then the Air Force is rolling out another job that they're sending a billet for, and we'll be hiring for one more member of that team. William, anybody else that I've left out that it's going to be in that new facility? And I don't have an update on the expected opening.
Yes, sir.
If you have that'd be great.
Also, our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility personnel will be in that office. And right now, we are fortunate at Edwards to have a designated refurbished building. I believe we're first in AFMC to have that, to facilitate the no wrong door policy. And we are in the final stages of working with our comm squadron to get comms set up in that building. Hopefully, with furniture ordered and delivered, we'll be able to be in the building by the end of the calendar year, hopefully, all things considered. But we're looking forward to having a one-stop shop for people who want and need services to provide, find us in one consolidated location. So more information will be forthcoming.
I don't remember where we decided to house EAP. Is that office going to stay in the base theater, or is that going to move when we refurb as well? I don't remember where that landed.
Employee Assistance Program is actually office down the hall from where my job will be officed. So that individual will be officed with us in the helping agencies facility.
Yeah, fantastic. It's the no wrong door policy. We kind of had it set up already, and then we got told to go do it, and we said we're already doing it. It was a great thing. And yes, now, William, I think we're not just first in AFMC. I think we'll be first in the Air Force, which is, it's normal that barriers are broken here at Edwards, right? So that's fantastic. All right, William, any other parting shots? DJ, any other parting shots before we let you go? DJ, hang around to see if there are any questions.
Just remember 988 if you're in crisis or you have suicidal ideations or know someone that needs help, 988.
Okay, thanks, William. I appreciate what you do. All right. There are two infographics that, no notice, I'm going to have Chief talk about because it's a big part of his job that we sent. The first one is safe and sound fall prevention, and the other one is the 2022 campaign for safe and sound. If you guys have those, do you have them? Yep. If you have them, you can call them up. That's great. One of the things that go to the other chart if you can, real quick, teammates. I'll tee this up here for Chief, and then I'll let him talk to him a little bit. He already hit on the most important topic here in any time we talk about safety, right? A building, a plane, a car, or whatever, it's either disposable or replaceable, but guess what? You're not. So, Chief, if you want to give a foot stomp on a couple of these for us.
No, absolutely. The one thing I've noticed that after 24 years of maintenance, summertime is usually the time where the heat kicks in, we lose situational awareness, and there's some complacency that happens. And we see notifications pretty much every day about someone getting hurt. So it's very important to have situational awareness. Be careful where you're working. Make sure you have the proper protective equipment on. If you're going for long runs like I do, make sure you let your family know where you're going in case you roll your ankle out and you're out in the middle of the desert. But yeah, it's very important. And then keep an eye on your wingman or wingwoman, right? Sometimes they get complacent, and we have to be there to save them.
So back to the charts for us, guys, if you can. Thanks. So look, this is a workplace safety poster, but you can be infinitely safe at work, but sloppy off duty, and guess what? We still lose you. Your family loses. You lose, and candidly, our nation loses if we don't all do the right thing on and off duty. I used to get a kick out of a lieutenant when I was a lieutenant and a captain. We'd have to fill out these. You remember these when you're the hey, I'm going to go do hazardous duty things.
It still happens, sir.
Yeah, and it was amazing to me once I was on the other side of that table. I would ask people, what about, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm immortal.
Yeah.
What are you worried about, Mr. Flight Commander? What are you worried about, Mr.
Now, did you
Squadron
rock climb with the rest of them, like Mr. Percival and the rest of them?
I am not a rock climber yet, although I have a kid that's looking to add that to the family repertoire. Yeah. And right now we're gymmed up there. But my off-duty hazard activity burned Hunter low lead and had something swinging in a circle. Yes. In the front. So that was mine. I thought about buying and riding a bike, and then I met my girlfriend, now wife, and she said, if it's me, then you can't have a cat and you can't have a motorcycle. And so
my wife pulled a trump on me. We were in D.C. and she allowed me at that point to buy a motorcycle, and then she knew what the right answer was going to be because it wasn't safe. And then when you throw kids in the mix, that you think twice before you go out and do something dangerous, right? It puts a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of things that we do where we balance risk or we manage risk. Or we take a little bit more risk here and a little bit less risk there. The comment from my much better half now of 21 years coming up is that if that's something that you want to do or need to do, then there's a risk associated with that, and you need to mitigate the risk as best you can. But you got to accept the residual risk, and absolutely. I think that is something that applies, that we do a really good job at on duty, but off duty I need you to think about as well. So now if you go to the second infographic, it's safe and sound fall prevention. There's a couple pictures across the top of folks with, they got the right gear on, they got helmets, they got they're being belayed, or they're in a very controlled environment. That's fantastic, but then think about what you've done in your house by standing on a rotating chair.
Yes.
Or that little rung on the ladder that says "Don't stand above here." Have you ever done that? Right. Yes. Those are examples of risk acceptance that are probably above what it's worth. So it isn't just motorcycles or other things like that, or the hazard activities. There's a lot of things we do on a daily basis.
So QA is not at home to watch you.
Valid. That's valid. Yeah. That's valid. And one of the things that middle picture there in that chart is a staircase, and it shows somebody that has, I guess, fallen. I for years, when I go, especially downstairs, I don't run my hand down the handrail, but I have a free hand, and it is over the handrail. So if something does get lost, I got that as an option, because my bones ain't as young as they used to be, and I don't want those bruises, even if the bones don't break. So just little things like that, and think about safety on and off duty. If you see something that we can do better or mitigate risk better, great. And then make sure you're accepting risk with full knowledge. If it's your risk off duty, that's yours to accept. Just make sure you know what you're accepting, and you mitigate it as best you can. And if it's on duty risk, make sure we're accepting it at the right level. And often the right answer is the right amount of risk, because if we were infinitely safe, we'd get nothing done. So that's another big thing that I think we can learn from our service. All right, Chief, thanks for going through those with me. The last, so there's an answer. Chief, I'll let you hit that there, the answer, and then I'll talk about the next
So
item.
the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the first flight of the F-22 Raptor is 10 September.
There you go. So it wasn't in a couple weeks, but it is on a weekend, and it's the 25th anniversary of the first flight. Pretty awesome. Okay, so over the time that Dee and I have, Chief Ward-Swanigan and I have been in the seat, we've had to deliver some, hey, we asked and we got no, and it was like to assignment incentive pay, and it was, hey, everybody else got a bump in BAH, but we didn't, Right. So those were not fun deliveries, but we try to be as transparent and as factual with you as we can. I'll tell you, one of the opportunities that we have, primarily because we have data that allows us to talk to senior leaders, and they say, you know what, we agree with you. That's not the right answer for Edwards. We have been given an opportunity as an installation to do an out-of-cycle BAH increase survey. On the 18th of August, there was a task that went out, I don't know if it was from the front office or from the CAG, sent out to squadron commanders and directors to include mission partners. Hey, go get some housing information. We need a certain kind of grades, on base, off base, with dependents, without dependents, and collect that. It is completely voluntary. However, the more data we get, the more robust that data set is, the more people that see that and then compare it to what the grade appropriate BAH would be right now, which is probably like this, your costs and what you're getting, the more they'll go, holy cow, they do need an out-of-sight BAH change. Now, there's a formula that goes in there, but it requires a lot more data. And the more data we have, the more power the data set has as a whole. So if you have been asked to contribute to that in a voluntary nature, please do. Those of us that live on base, it's pretty obvious what our rent is, right? Because that's what we give for the privatized housing. But it's the off-base folks that will really help us make this a robust thing. And I think the off-base rates are the ones that are going insane right now, and we need your information. We're trying to get that information back and collected by the end of the month. That doesn't mean you wait until August 31st. If you have it and you're willing to participate, reach out now and get it back to the chain of command. You can also send it direct to housing, or you can text your information to us, and we'll move it to housing. So if you want to participate, please do. We desperately need off-base military members to tell us, their housing information. It's a quick survey, and it'll be super helpful as we prepare for that visit, which will be a virtual visit from the BAH team that they're interviewing. I think it's in mid-September. We've got some interviews follow up for that. I think it's overdue. It's about a year overdue, in my very strong opinion. But I'm glad we have the attention, and I think there's a lot of goodness there. Will BAH include gas costs? Probably not. But it will include cost of utilities and the rent increases, which have been much faster than what BAH has been doing. So please participate. And if you haven't seen it yet, bug your front office. And if your front office doesn't know, then bug the group. And if the groups don't know, then you're welcome to hit our CAG with that. All right, I think that was all the prepared topics that I wanted to push or that we had for you today. There's a question in there. So, Chief, I'll let you ask the question, and then if you don't know the answer, I'm telling you right now I don't, but we can always phone a friend. So go ahead.
Why is the Chow Hall now charging 33% surcharge to civilians? I don't know the answer, but I would assume there was always supposed to be a surcharge, and I don't think we've been capturing that over the last few years. And so now we're just instituting something that should have been there to begin with. But I can get up with the people that need to know and ask that question, and I'll get it out to whoever asked that question.
Yeah, so this was, I guess, a question that somebody was planning to give to Chief Swiss when they thought he was going to be here. I'm sure he would know immediately off the top of his nugget, but we'll
But I'm pretty sure that even when we go TDY, if we're not living in the dorms, I even pay a surcharge.
yeah. Yeah, so there's the person that asked the question, you're also telling us that it may not be as consistently applied as it probably should be. I will say that is typically an artifact of a change, right? And so it takes a while for the change to solidify. And then if the folks at the Chow Hall can't answer the question, I can't believe that the manager there doesn't know the answer, then we'll get an answer from higher headquarters. And if there's some type of an exception to policy or opportunity that I have locally to offset that, or maybe not make it apply for some folks in certain areas because of our smaller subset of food options, then I'm certainly very willing to look at that, and I think you know where I would land on that. But thanks for bringing that up to our attention. We'll get to FSS, and then I'll say the best place for you to get that answer back, instead of waiting for a future town hall, is from the Chow Hall itself. And I'm sure that'll be there in just a matter of days. All right. Well, there you go. Chief, you want to hit that one too?
Yeah, so as we all know, right, we do have staffing issues across the base, and because of this, starting this week in the fitness center is open 24/7 with CAC access on the weekends. There will be no staff on duty, so please try to capture and get your CAC read Monday through Friday so you can get gym access.
Yeah.
Swiss also threw me some notes he wanted to pass out, but
Sure.
yeah, there was the Edwards Fire Department did an audit recently in base housing, and there's a lot of RVs that are permanently parked within the streets and in the yards.
Yeah, so we'll hit on all these topics real quick. So the first one is, in my pocket right here, literally I have a swipe card that gives me access to the gym 24/7, and anybody can get that. You got to register. You're taking some risk there, so tying in safety. You know, don't go, if you go to the gym by yourself, don't do something that would require a spotter, right? That's a super important characteristic there. And then the other part there is staffing issues. If you are interested in working for the team or the collective organization here, or you want to continue your federal career of service, there are a lot of opportunities available within FSS right now. The gym is one of those. CDC always has a double-digit number of slots open. Outdoor rec is also available, and there are a lot of other places.
Maintenance group, sir.
Maintenance group is always hiring, and I can go on and on and on and on about the places. If you are interested in working in federal service as a civilian, it's available here, and especially if you live on the base. Holy cow, that is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So huge opportunities. All right, so the next one from Swiss there was what was it?
Parking RVs and base housing.
Yes. So, boy, all of us, and Chief Roach and I both, we all signed the same lease. Now, it had a different address on it, had a different monthly amount, and it had our names different on it. But other than that, the lease was the same. Mm-hmm. If you are like most Americans in the 21st century, you probably didn't read that. Well, you should read that. It's not 86 pages on your phone to get to an app that you just need for 10 minutes. I think it's actually digestible. It's not super lawyerese, but it's like a community expectations. And one of the things that the lease says is that you have a limited amount of time. If you have an RV, before your trip, you pull it into your driveway in front of your house, and it gives you I can't remember how many days.
48 hours before and after.
Yeah, to load up for your trip. Then you go do whatever you're going to do with your RV, and you come back and you download it and you clean it and you put it back in storage.
Right.
That is in your lease. So that's the why. And so the fact that fire department is out auditing that means that we're speeding, folks, and we're probably doing 20 over. Not no speeding is acceptable on base, but don't take advantage of that. And the contractors don't. Mayro doesn't want to be the bad guy, so don't put him in a position to be the bad guy.
Part of it's safety. If there's an emergency on base and the roads are blocked, they can't get it through fair. And then
Absolutely.
Little children are running back and forth between the houses, and God forbid an RV is parked in the way, and you have a blind spot when a child runs in front of you. Yep. There is waivers. If you have a hardship, there's a short-term waiver, and you can place a placard on your RV, and you can get up with May Road at 661-385-6060, and if you're looking for other storage, get up with Outdoor Rec at 661-275-2267.
Yeah, repeat those
So
numbers.
there's other options.
Yeah, for May Road and outdoor rec again, Chief.
May Road is 661-385-6060. And then outdoor rec is 661-275-2267.
Yep. So early in the pandemic, when we were trying to figure out a way to, if part of the family gets pops, how do you quarantine that person from the rest of the family? I effectively directed, I used some public health emergency authority, and I said the 48-hour thing is gone. And we use those. As the pandemic subsided and we normalized and vaccines became available, we had treatment options available as well. We slowly curtailed that, but we are in normal operations right now for RVs in the housing area. I'm aware of two very legitimate reasons why you would be granted a waiver there. One is a member of your house pops, right? And you say, hey, we need to isolate that member of the house, and we don't want to sleep in the same bedroom or use the same bathroom or kitchen. That's a legitimate reason. You can work with your CMSgt, with your command team, and with Mayroad if you want to work with them direct, fantastic. If not, your command team can help you, and so can your resident advocate. So Miss Christina Roach, no relation, but Christina Roach is your housing advocate. Her supervisor is the vice wing commander. And she can also advocate on your behalf when a situation like that happens. Another reason that is also medical related, but if you are in need of support from family that's in town, and they need to be close by because of the age of your kids and the medical concern or condition that drives you here, that is also another reason why you'd want to ask for an exception to that policy. Provide the reasonable request, get the support of your command team, and we are very reasonable people, and we make very reasonable decisions. And I haven't received one that I thought was anywhere close to reasonable that we didn't say sounds good. And the housing office is empowered to approve those on my behalf or on Colonel Casper's behalf as well. So, but like Chief Roach said, it increases risk for the neighborhood. You know, fire department needs to be able to get big trucks through, and if you have never had a kid jump out in front of you from a parked vehicle, RVs are even worse. By the way, if you can park them in your driveway, even better. But if you can't, then the road is acceptable there. So I appreciate that note from Chief Swiss. What else did he?
We got
did he want us
the
to talk
Mojave
about?
Sky Community Center basketball courts are open, and I've seen pictures. They're pretty awesome. They're open from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m.
All right, more potential patients for physical therapy. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got a kick yesterday. So yesterday was the Med Group's training day, and at the end of the training day, they had unit PT, and they chose, I guess, yesterday to do ultimate frisbee, and the physical therapist said, "Hey, I'm just creating a whole bunch of new patients."
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like playing volleyball with ALS, hey, Chief? Yeah. So we had an answer from FSS on the Chow Hall. So Air Force Services Center policy is that we don't subsidize for civilians. Which civilians, where, when, and why, and how is that being applied? I know the FSS leadership, certainly starting at the Chow Hall manager level, would like to know what you're observing that he could potentially do better. He's an awesome dude, and when you get a chance to talk to him, ask him his airman story. It's truly amazing. Every time I'm in there to serve a meal, it's pretty amazing. I love hearing what that guy's gone through to serve us and be a part of this great American experiment. Okay, we're being told questions are out. That's probably a good time when I look at the clock for us to wrap this up. Roach, thanks. It's a pleasure.
Sir,
it's a pleasure.
awesome.
It's a
Thank you.
pleasure having you here. It's been a pleasure serving with you across, almost a decade now,
Yes.
and across multiple assignments. And hard to go wrong when you got a maintenance chief in the room, and if you do, they'll let you know pretty quick. So I'm glad you didn't have to call me out too bad today. Thanks for stepping up. Thanks for stepping in, and I
thank
appreciate
you.
serving with you. Any thoughts for the crowd before they run away for the weekend?
No, sir. Just be safe, and remember the senior NCO induction ceremony is next Thursday on the 25th at the Maroc.
Whole bunch of new master sergeants there.
Absolutely.
So my thought, I have many thoughts. I think this is a very special place. And that picture, so go back to showing chief as well, the bigger picture there. My thoughts that resonate when I see that picture is that is an NF-104, and that specific NF-104 is a derivative of the F-104 that is on a stick and has been for decades out in front of Test Pilot School. If you drive by that and you see it's just an airplane on a stick. Well, there are no just airplanes on a stick here at Edwards. There's always a fantastic story behind it. That airplane was one of 2 that was made, and we did it for high altitude and maybe astronaut training. So they would zoom the NF-104 up into 80 to 100,000 feet. So for reference, the Raptor that we talked about today, 25th anniversary, it's a 60,000 foot ceiling. F-16's 50,000 feet.
And most commercial are 30, 35,000.
Yeah, and most commercial airplanes are in the 30s. Pretty rare that they'd get 40 or above. And this is like 80 plus. And when they get up there, the air's so thin that the engine no longer works, so they'd flip on the rocket engine. And if you look on the back, so the picture would be behind you, it's kind of in the shadow. There's actually a rocket motor, and on the wingtips there are little rocket control thrusters on there. So the pilot would actually fly it as if they were flying a satellite or a spaceship while they were in a low or 0G orbit. And then they get down into more dense air, engine would restart, they'd come back and land and go do some training. So that's what the aircraft was designed for. We built 2. There's only 1, because the other one is the actual airplane that Chuck Yeager bailed out of when he was on one of those profiles. And in the movie, immortalized in the movie The Right Stuff, it's where he's walking off the lake bed with his helmet over his hand and there's a burning Hulk behind him. That was the crash of the other NF-104 that Chuck Yeager was in. I'm not sure if he's the one that put it out in front of the school or not, but some of the pieces from the crash one are inside the front door there, and the remaining one was put outside of Test Pilot School very appropriately. So this is a special place, and that's a historical moment, but we are doing all kinds of awesome stuff like that. Hopefully not breaking airplanes or jumping out of airplanes, but if we need to, we need to. And I think that's a great thing and a great way for me to share that experience and that amount of history here from the center of the aerospace testing universe. Everybody be safe. We will be here next Friday at this time, 1300 Pacific time on every duty day Friday. Be safe, folks. Have a great weekend.